A little bit of trivia quiz for you tonight. We've been going through the Ten Commandments, right, during Lent. That was the first question, right? Second question, do you remember me talking about two tables of the law, or two tablets, and on one you have the commandments that are in relationship to God, and then on the other the relationship to one another? Do you remember that? Yes? So far it's a pass-fail, yes or no? Good. Do you remember how many are on the first table in relation to God? Three. Wow, I am impressed. That is, if you go according to the Lutheran numbering. Now, do you remember when Homer, if you were here on that one night, when Homer came up and he had the Norwegian, Minnesotan version of the Ten Commandments on his t-shirt? You remember that? Do you remember that there was a different order, and I said, we got to one of them and I said, oh, you must have the Presbyterian type of shirt. You remember that? I didn't mean it as a knock against Presbyterians. I meant it literally. Because there is a different order of the commandments among some Protestants. And Luther chose to keep the traditional ordering that had been in existence with the church for, eons. So he stayed, in a sense, with the Catholic ordering of the commandments. But with many of the other Protestant reformers, they changed the ordering. And they inserted in the first table of the law, instead of three, which number one would be, I am the Lord your God, you shall have no other gods. Number two, according to us, is you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. And then we say number three is, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. However, other Protestants, Presbyterians for instance, inserted a number three before the Sabbath, a number three as, after you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, they inserted you shall make no graven images, or no idolatry, right? And then fourth, they did number four as remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. When they get to the end of the commandments, so that kind of bumped everything down one, right? Now, when we get to number 9 and 10, both, according to our numberings, both are about coveting. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. And then number 10, you shall not covet your neighbor's wife or manservant or maidservant or anything that is your neighbor's, according to the way that Luther did it and the tradition of the church before that. But when they bumped it up, they combined those two into just the last 10th commandment. And then the rest of them were ordered, one more down. Now, quite honestly, looking at the Bible and the Scripture, that actually makes more sense to me. And 9 and 10 could be, put into one about coveting. But whatever the case, that's why there is a difference. So if you were ever wondering, if you, like somebody Googled the Ten Commandments and said, hey, wait a minute, this isn't according, well, what gives? They got a different order of the commandments than we do. And, well, now you know why. A little Bible trivia for you this morning. All of that said, tonight we are, according to Luther's Catechism and the Lutheran tradition, we're looking at the 9th and 10th commandments, which are, you shall not covet your neighbor's house, or your neighbor's, and then 10th, your neighbor's wife, manservant, maidservant, cattle, or anything that is your neighbor's. And Luther goes on to explain, we are to fear and love God so that we do not desire to get our neighbor's possessions by scheming or pretending to have a right to them, but always to help them to keep what is theirs. And also, or so that we don't tempt or coax away from our neighbor, their spouse or workers, but encourage them to remain loyal. Now, I don't know about you or what neighborhood you live in, but I don't know what neighborhood Luther lived in, but my neighbors don't have a manservant or maidservant, or even cattle for that matter. Now, you maybe your neighbors do, whether it's manservant, maidservant, or cattle, but mine don't. So does that mean that I'm off the hook? That this commandment doesn't apply to me? No. Because, see, some of my neighbors do have houses that I covet. Some of my neighbors, even if it's not their house that I covet, they have some RVs and trucks to pull those RVs that I really covet. Some of them have shops, with really cool tools in them that I covet. And some of them have swimming pools. Some of them have boats and riding lawnmowers, and the list could go on and on and on of stuff that my neighbors have that I don't, that I really covet. And if it isn't stuff that they have, some of my neighbors, some of my friends, some of you have talents that I really covet. I mean, some can sing beautifully, and I wish I could. Some can jump higher and run faster. Even my kids are starting to be able to do that better than I can. Some, well, actually a lot, are better looking, smarter. There's a lot of things that my neighbors have, whether it's things or talents or whatever, that I'm envious, I'm jealous, sometimes even resentful. Looking at what I don't have instead of what I do have. Like a bigger TV than my brother. Did I just say that? I'm sorry. That is really bad. What I meant is more hair than my brother. He's not here tonight, so I knew I could get away with it. That's bad, but that is how we grew up. If Joel got this, then I should be able to have that too. It's not fair. And it built envy or resentment. Maybe that was just in our house. Maybe you didn't grow up with that at all. But who can blame me for looking at what I don't have versus what I do have? I'm bombarded daily with images and messages of how I should look and what I should need. How much better my life would be if I had these toys, boats or ATVs or electronic gadgets or whatever it might be for you. How much more successful or popular I'd be if I had these clothes. How much healthier I'd be if I used these products. And the list could go on and on and on. The advertising industry convinces me that my life is not complete or fulfilled if I'm not like these people, or if I don't look like those. I should want to be like them. You shouldn't covet. Why? Because it leads to resentment or to ingratitude and to other great and shameful sins. Whether it's hating your neighbor for what they have or hating your God for what you don't have, or perhaps even leading to stealing your neighbor's stuff or having an affair with your neighbor's wife or husband. What is the difference between this commandment regarding affairs, spouse, or stuff? What's the difference between this commandment we've already looked at with the 6th commandment, you shall not commit adultery, or the 7th commandment, you shall not steal? Haven't we already covered this? The 6th and the 7th commandment is about action or activity of stealing or having an affair. But the 9th and 10th commandment about coveting is about your heart. Even if you haven't done something, where's your heart at? Jesus once said, "You've heard that it was said of old, you shall not commit adultery, but I say to you, you shall not even look at another with lust. You've heard that it was said, you shall not steal, but I say to you, you shouldn't even envy what others have." Really? Is that possible? And if not, then why would God give us a commandment or an expectation or a responsibility or a way of life that we can't keep? We'll explore that next week. But I will say this. I can be envious of my brother who has a cabin and I don't, and I am. Or I can rejoice that he pays the bills for it and is graciously letting me use it. This one thing's for sure. It's not helpful to rub it in his face that I have a bigger TV than him. Rather, he can rejoice that he can watch it anytime he wants. We are to fear and love God so that we do not desire to get our neighbor's possessions by scheming or pretending to have a right to them, but always help them to keep what is theirs. Likewise, we're not to tempt or coax away their spouse or workers, but encourage them to remain loyal. This is what it means when God says, "You shall not covet."